share it on Facebook, Rosaline, right now.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you so much for joining us on day 16 of the Real Talk. Alhamdulillah, we've got a really interesting topic for you today. I want to change my husband, but he will not change. Joining me today is the hilarious Rosaline Batul, who is the transformational business expert, mashallah, helping coaches sell her high ticket offers.
And we're joined by the marriage mindset coach, Saika Riyad, and she helps married couples transform and thrive in their marriages and also works with divorcees.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for joining in. We're sorry about the delay. You know what? It was me. I just couldn't set my phone up. I'm really not techie. And Rosaline's just been laughing at me for the past like 10 minutes, as you can
I
see.
can't even help you.
So thank you so much for joining us today. Alhamdulillah. Without further ado, let's get into this topic straight away. It was decided like about 3 minutes before the live that we were going to talk about it. So, Rosie, what do you know about this? That you're in a marriage and you really want your other half, your husband or your wife, to change, and you want to help them, but they're not willing to change. What does this mean? What does this say?
So usually when we're trying to look at other people, we're looking for our husbands to change. We're looking for them to love us more. We're looking for them to give us more validation and appreciation. Is because you are not feeling that within yourself.
Appreciation, appreciation.
Appreciation, all right.
Gosh, I didn't know you were that posh. I know you were posh, Rosaline Batul, but
I'm
I
not
didn't.
posh, man. I'm a
When did
northerner.
honestly? I didn't know you changed your language as well over these past few days. She said, "As it sounded like I was speaking to the Queen." Then appreciation. You know how they use them posh words.
Oh,
Subhanallah.
that long.
Sorry. I'm gonna not interrupt you this time. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Let's give Rosaline another minute to calm down. We understood, yeah.
But this is
This
what
is what I
happens
have to put up
when
with.
you have it's not me, it's you. Okay, so guys, appreciation. I can't even say the word anymore now.
Okay. Appreciation.
So
Appreciation.
appreciation.
Okay, sorry.
When your husband doesn't appreciate you or he's not valuing you, it's usually because you are not validating yourself and you're looking for someone else to make you feel loved, make you feel happy. So you're making your husband the source of your happiness. So sometimes we all have different love languages, and Saika covered that in a video like 2 3 days ago, and she talks about the love languages that sometimes when you want love, and
I
maybe you
covered it
want.
over a week ago, actually. I covered it over a week ago. You clearly were not on that day.
I
That's
was
why
not
you
on that
forgot.
day, guys.
That's
I was
why you
asleep.
forgot which day it was. Subhanallah.
It was so basically when we have different love languages, it's usually because maybe you have the love language that you want quality time and your husband has the love language of acts of service, so you both clash, right? So what happens is you are looking for your husband to love you, to value you, to give you attention, but you have to give that to yourself first, and that's where the conflict happens. Now if we're talking about a husband that triggers you and he makes you feel bad about yourself, or he just leaves you stranded, or he leaves you feeling away, you have to still be okay within yourself, because you have to remember when someone is feeling triggered, it has nothing to do with you. It has all to do with that person and what they're dealing with. Hope that
Yeah,
answers the
subhanallah.
question, Saika.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. You know what? Wallahi, on a serious note, without joking around, this is a really heartbreaking topic because the amount of people that come to me and one of them really wants to make the marriage work, right? And the other person, they might genuinely be struggling, or they might, there's a difference between struggling with a problem and wanting to change, and there's one kind of person who just outright denies that, you know what, I'm not going to change, move on, get on with it, right? And either way, there's both of them require changing. And the point we're trying to make, subhanallah, is that you can influence somebody, you can definitely influence them, you can have a good positive effect on them, but you cannot change anyone. Allah has said it himself that he doesn't change the condition of people until they change what's in themselves. And the heartbreaking thing is when you really want that person to change, you're willing to do everything for them, you put it on a plate for them. You know what, I'm gonna join your business, I'm gonna take you on these courses, I'm gonna stop my job. We'll go on Hajj together. We'll do all the personal development together. We'll get a coach. We'll hire somebody who's gonna give us all the help in the world. You can put that on a plate to somebody, right? But if they're not willing to do it, if they're not accepting it from their heart and they're not becoming responsible for themselves, you cannot make that other person change. And this is the most heartbreaking thing in a marriage, especially, subhanallah.
Mm.
So, because that person is responsible for themselves. You can take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink.
Yes, that is a very good point, Saika. And just like Saika was saying, if you want more love, like this is what I say always, like when you're in a relationship, whether it's even a friendship or a marriage, but if you want more love, give more love. Be the person that's grounded within yourself. Because just like Allah says, He will not change your environment until you change yourself. So you need to be grounded within yourself. You have to be whole within yourself. As painful as it is that you may have a person around you that doesn't want to change, it doesn't mean you failed, because usually we make it about ourselves, because we as human beings, we are meaning making machines. Everything that happens in life, we make a meaning from it. And usually when we can't change our own husband, especially, or we can't get him to love us the way that we wanted, we make it about ourselves. Say, I failed as a human being, I failed as a wife, that means I'm a bad person. I'm so shameful, there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong. We want to make that clear to you. There's nothing wrong with you. The person has an issue that he needs to take responsibility for, and you can't force anyone to take responsibility.
Yeah, and this doesn't just happen with the men where you want him to change. It also happens with the women, subhanallah, where I was dealing with another case about 2, 3 weeks ago, where the husband really wanted to make it work, and the wife had given up. She had said, you know what, I've checked out, I've had enough. I can't be dealing with this anymore. He hasn't done this, he hasn't done that. I don't want to be with him anymore. There's better men than him out there, and that's her choice. Alhamdulillah, that's fine. But what you have to really understand is that it's not for you to, you can't make that person change. Whether you stay with them for 20 years, whether you stay with them for 20 days or 20 months, that has
Mm,
to come from you. That has to come from that person, sorry. It has to
yeah.
come from that, because responsibility, when you can only, excel in life when you accept responsibility. It's the most basic and the first step, that you acknowledge, okay, there's an issue, there's a problem, there's something that needs to be solved here, and it's within me or within my partner or whoever it is, and I need to do XYZ to make this work. The other person can't fix you. You have to be healed, whole, and complete, regardless of whether that person changes or not. And
Mm,
yeah, you know what, this is so emotionally draining, and I
yeah.
really empathize with the people who have gone through this, because even in our Islamic, subhanallah, teachings and everything, we know that the Prophet ﷺ with his uncle,
Salatu.
right?
Mm,
What happened? How good was he to his uncle? Did
mm.
his uncle accept Islam?
You mean
Right?
Abu Talib? No.
Yes, yeah, he didn't, right?
Mm,
Subhanallah, he was amongst the best of people, amongst the best of characters, the best in every single thing that he did. Our role
mm.
model, somebody who we look up to, right?
It's true,
And
yeah.
yet he still didn't, you know, um, subhanallah. So the point I'm trying to make is that, you are you really, is this worth it for you to stay in this situation knowing that a person is abusive?
Mm,
They're not serving your future. There's no similarities in the deen, or that person has completely left the deen. And
yeah.
subhanallah, even if they're struggling, there's two different things. One is a person who's struggling and reluctant to change, and one is the one that outright denies, I don't want to change, or I'm not going to change.
Right, and that's the difference we want to point out to you. A person who's bettering themselves, you will see them taking action. The key word
Yes.
here is action. They are going to either counseling and they get triggered, and they're like, okay, when they get triggered, they go into their space of danger and fight or flight, and things happen. That's different. But when someone outright says to you that I'm just not going to, and there's nothing wrong with me, it's all you, and you know for a fact that it's not you, it's the other person as well who's contributing to the unhappiness in the marriage, then that's the issue. That is a person who doesn't want any betterment for himself or for you. And you have to realize that, the leaves, the trees shed their leaves every single year, right? If you're not willing to shed parts of yourself so that you can evolve, because remember, your soul is here to evolve. Your soul likes to grow. You as a human being want to grow. So if you're around a person who doesn't want to evolve, doesn't want to get better, doesn't want to improve their character, because guys, none of us are infallible. We're not perfect. There is always room for improvement, right? And if someone doesn't want to improve themselves daily, this is why we pray, this is why we fast, this is why we read Quran, because it makes us improve ourselves. So if a person doesn't want to do that and take the action, take the steps towards it, then that's when the conflict happens. And you have to ask yourself, is this serving me? Am I benefiting from this? Is this relationship good for my health, good for my iman, good for my finances, good for my mental health? Is it good overall? And you have to be very honest with yourself, because the honesty, it hurts. When you have to be honest with yourself and sit with yourself and self-assess, it's really painful and it's scary, but you have to go down that route.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking because subhanallah, it reminds me of another, taking action is absolute key, right? That's how
Mm,
you that's how you get anywhere in life. You rectify whatever it is and you do whatever you need to do. And it reminds me of another, subhanallah, people that I was a person that I was working with, and she was in a marriage for, she was in her late 50s now, she's about 56, subhanallah. And really there was nothing left in her marriage. He had been cheating on her. They had
mm,
2 or 3 kids that were adults, probably older than me and you, Rosie, right?
mm,
They had kids, they were all mature adults, subhanallah. And and she was heartbroken. He would come and cheat on her, and then she would hear him talking to this lady, and all kinds of stuff would be going on, and they knew it, and they'd had fights, but he wasn't changing. And then when I
mm.
asked her, what's stopping you to move on with your life, she's saying, I don't even have the strength to do wudu. I don't, forget
Wow. Allahu
praying,
Akbar.
forget about praying and getting up and fulfilling the basics. I don't have the
SubhanAllah.
courage, the strength to do wudu because I am so broken by this man not changing. I am so gutted and so lost in all these
Mm.
years that you have put up with this person who has outrightedly, behaved like this. What must that do to you as a person?
Yeah, and I want to
It
add to
must
that
kill
also.
your character. It
Yeah,
kills you literally. How can you live like that?
but I want to add to that and also remind people that of Asiya and Firaun. And I remember reading a quote a while back about when Asiya, what happens is in a marriage, when we make our marriage our everything and we make our husband our all and we make him the source of our happiness, the source of our love, the source of our validation, what happens is that we end up falling into that trap of feeling broken when really we are all whole. All of us are whole beings, but we allow someone to take our power. Your power is to feel whole. But then when you allow someone to take your power, that's when you feel broken. But really, you're not broken. You're not broken at all. Nothing has broken inside of you. Someone has just taken your power because you gave it to them. You just gave them the key. You're like, here, have the key to my heart, my happiness, my love, everything. You have the key. It's like you never held it on your own. And it reminds me of Asiya and Firaun. When Asiya, reverted to Islam, when she became Muslim, she held her own. She did not allow the man to question her faith. And this is what us women do. Because anyway, it's
Subhanallah.
natural. It's natural in us. We're emotional creatures. This is why we have to be very careful with how we speak to each other, especially as women. But Asiya, she did not allow the man to question her faith. She carried on, and she was like, "You're not my Lord. Allah is my Rabb. You can never make me change. You can, and you are not. You don't have control over me. I know that Allah has control over me. You don't. And this is an issue. This is a conflict. We've given our power to someone else. We've told someone, here, have my keys. Do what you want with me. I will be your doormat. And this goes back to lack of boundaries, lack of self esteem, lack of confidence. When you don't have that confidence within yourself to set boundaries, this is why you will allow the lines to be misconstrued, convoluted. This is why, your husband, you allow him to do what he wants to you and you stay in that situation because you got kids and you say that, oh,
Mm.
I want my kids to have both parents. That's your excuse, but really, your kids have like the worst blueprint for a marriage.
Yeah, and I feel and I really empathize with anybody who's in that situation, because I know how you really want to make the marriage work, right? I've been in a
Yeah,
situation similar to that myself. You just want to make it work so badly that
yeah,
you'll end up compromising your values. You may even become a doormat, and you'll think, you know what, this is for the greater good. And I'm not saying don't do that, because in a way, I am saying give it your best shot, subhanallah, because at the moment the divorce rate is so high. People stop and they quit and they give up on the most smallest of things ever.
yeah.
And we're not encouraging that. We know that divorce is the last option, subhanallah. However, when it comes to somebody who's refusing outrightedly, yeah,
Mm,
and you've told them, you've given them chances, opportunities to change, you've given
mm,
them the time apart. They have everybody. You have to remember, we have all the resources available for change. There's
yes.
nothing that we lack in our lives that is not available or we can't get, subhanallah. Imagine if me and you wanted to get some food to eat, right? We wanted to buy some food. We've got Asda, we've got Tesco's, we've got takeaways,
Mm,
we've got delivery places, we've got everything. We've got restaurants. We're surrounded by choice, left,
right.
right, and center. So whoever says that they can't do it because they don't have X, Y, and Z
Mm,
is actually making it's an excuse, because
mm,
we have all the resources available. We have to become resourceful if we really want it to work.
thank
Thank you for
you.
joining, Nashila, Hanain, and Salma as well. Subhanallah. So you can really make it. You can make it work, but you have to understand that person has to do their bit. You can't do it for him or her.
And
They
this is
have
the
to do it.
guys,
Mm.
this is the essence of leadership. A lot of us just want to be influencers. And I spoke about this with Fit Muslima before I had a live with her. A lot of us just want to be influencers. We don't want to take the lead. Yes, a man is supposed to take the lead in the marriage, but if he's not leading and he's going the wrong way, are you going to follow him? Like that's what
Yeah,
influencers do. They just follow the crowd. They want to follow where the likes are. They want to follow where the comfort is. They want to follow where it feels safe. It feels safe to be in an abusive marriage. It doesn't feel safe to be divorced. It feels safe to be with a man who doesn't treat me well, but it doesn't feel safe to be divorced. This is the
the
indoctrination that we have.
mindset.
The
Yes, the
mindset is
mindset.
that it's safer for me to have this image of being married and telling everyone I'm married, but deep down inside, behind closed doors, you're getting abused. And for you, that's considered safer than for you to be alone. Because I speak to so many sisters who say to me that I don't want to be divorced. I don't want the stigma of divorce. The man,
Yeah,
he's cheating on me. He gave me an STD. I remember doing a video on this a long time ago. An actual sister messaged me. She goes, he gave me an STD when I was pregnant, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to be divorced. I'd rather be with him so my kid has a father and she sees her father growing up than me leave him. I'm just like, he put your life at risk. He gave you an STD. This is what happens when you have low value, when you have a
mm,
low lack of worth. And I always talk about the person who's involved in the situation. Yes, you can never change someone, but look at yourself. What are you putting up with? Because you teach people how to treat you. You
yeah,
actually teach people
definitely.
how to treat you.
Subhanallah. You
No one.
you put you set the boundaries yourself.
Yes.
And you know what? This is a disease in our community. What will people think? You're gonna sacrifice your entire life, your existence, your well-being, your mental and emotional and psychological, sanity, subhanallah, because you're worried about what are people going to think.
Yes, like
is
opinions
that
don't pay a
really
bill.
is that really what we live for? Is that really the purpose of mine and your life? That what are people going to think?
Yeah, and especially when you're a successful person as a woman, when you think about divorce, you think, "Oh my God, I failed as a woman." Forget
Hmm.
wife, you just failed as a woman. Like, because we have this thing that to be a woman, to be considered a valuable woman, you have to be married and you have to be able to hold down a man. Don't know where this concept came from, because not everyone is destined to get married in dunya. We all know that Allah says in the Quran, He set forth the pairs. We all know that maybe we may not meet our spouse in this dunya. It may not happen, but we have actually ingrained in ourselves that if I don't have a man, then I'm not worthy. Who came up with this
Yeah,
idea, this ideology?
subhanallah. Yes, yeah,
I
yeah. So
remember
your
growing up with
self-worth, you've made your self-worth become attached to this identity that if I don't have a husband, or if there's no man in my life, then I'm basically a piece of nothing. I don't deserve to be loved,
Yeah.
and I've got nothing. So, and until, because you've got this, really, it becomes an infatuation. Now, there's a
Yes.
difference between love and infatuation. Love is something that is pure and it's good and it can be healthy. Infatuation is actually the opposite. It becomes unhealthy, that you can't let go of something. It's become like a disease to you. It might have
Right.
started with the right intention, but if you're infatuated with somebody, that's quite unhealthy. That's very unhealthy, in fact.
It is. You infatuate with the dream, the fantasy, the
Yeah.
Cinderella, that the
So
prince is
people,
gonna come save me.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
infatuation.
yeah. So people are not actually in love with the person. They're in love with the concept of love.
Yes,
They want to be
exactly.
living in that dream, and I've got that husband, or I've got that wife, and we're living happily, and we've got our own house, and we've got a nice car. And what are
You're not
people going to
happy.
think? It's the concept of love that you're trying to fit in with, rather than
Mm,
the bigger picture, which is being in love with the right person who's going to make the sacrifices for you, for himself, for herself. And if there is a problem, who's willing to change and rectify themselves. If there was a
yeah,
problem with me, I would rectify it.
yeah. I want to add
That's
to
the
that
only way you're
also.
going to grow. That's the only
Yeah.
way you're going to grow.
Another thing I want to add to that, you know what we do as women? As soon as he, like, let's say you know your husband, he's like, abusive, or he's not really helping you, he's toxic. And when they do the little slightest thing that's nice, we hold on to that
Yeah.
for dear life. And like, oh my God,
SubhanAllah.
he
Yeah.
complimented me today after 3 years of being together. He finally complimented me. He noticed me. And we use that as an excuse to hold on. And this is why I don't like reading those love stories on Instagram, especially the Islamic ones that portray this ideal that
Mm.
for you to get you need to get your man to change. So stay with him, encourage him, let him be abusive towards you, let him speak down to you, let him beat you up. I've read memes like this. This is what my ideology was back in the day. So I know that
Mm.
it says that let the man abuse you. There's like these love stories that go around, and then in the end he's gonna find you and love you. Like there's a, the have you read that classic story of the man who said, I'm gonna leave you for another woman, and then she goes to him, okay, just carry me for the next 2 months, and then he finds that she dies from cancer. Stuff like that. This is infatuation. It's a abusive, like we are being infatuated with abusive love stories basically,
Yes,
and we think
subhanAllah.
that's the norm.
Talking about them abusive love stories, I remember years ago I had this book called That Devil Called Love. Um, and that was just a whole load of nonsense, to be honest. I don't even know why I read it.
Yeah,
I should,
it's
I
abused.
probably have binned it, to be honest. But
No,
there
it's
is a lot
abused.
of
That's
rubbish.
what.
There is a lot of rubbish
Yeah,
out there as well,
but
which
especially
messes your head
Islamically.
up. Yes, which
Especially
messes your head up.
Islamically. Like when you
Mm.
look at the Islamic person, look at Prophet ﷺ, he was not abusive towards his wives. Where did we get this notion that a man we have to cope with his abuse before he changes? Like where did this ideology come from? It really racks my brain. And when I look back at it, it's always the blueprint as a child. When you're children, like if your parents didn't get on, or your mom just stuck with your father
Yeah,
because
and
she had
that's what you
kids,
saw. Yeah,
that's what you
subhanAllah.
saw, right? That's what you
Yeah,
saw. Then that's the reason why you will go and find a man who is also that kind of person that you feel you have to change for him to love you. Is that this it's a trophy for us. When we
yeah,
say to
yeah.
ourselves, oh, I made my husband change, I feel so great about myself, I feel validated now. No,
Mm.
you need to validate yourself way before that ever happens. You need to feel safe and happy within yourself before that happens.
Yeah, subhanAllah. And another point that I want to pick up on is there's a difference between living in a marriage based on hope, because hope is a mere wish. Hope is not
Mm,
certainty. Hope is not guaranteed. Hope is not, it's not real. Hope is just like, oh, I hope I lose weight one day, like that. Oh, I
yeah.
hope I buy that house in that nice area one day. That's hope.
Yeah.
It's not real. It's not reality.
Mm,
It's baseless. It doesn't have a solid, firm kind of foundation, right? You
mm.
can't build a marriage based on hope. And a lot of us, um, it could be even the men, subhanAllah, right? We stay in that situation because we're hopeful. We know the reality, but we're clinging on to that. You know how you were saying, Rosaline, that moment where he complimented you or he said
Yeah.
something nice to
Yeah.
you, he actually noticed what you did for once, so complimented. You know what? That was a really nice meal that you cooked for me. Subhanallah. We cling on to them moments because that's
Yes.
all we have
The
left
hope.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, that's not certainty. That's not conviction. If you don't have certainty in a marriage, right?
Yeah,
If I just have
right.
certainty that, for example, when I drive my car, it's going to get me from place A to B, I would not
Mm,
drive the car because it's not going to take me to my desired destination.
that's such a good point, Saika.
Subhanallah.
Mashallah.
It's true though. And I touched upon this in my mastery event last year. Subhanallah. There's a big
Mm,
difference between making something that is hopeful based on hope and wishes
mm,
and mere dreams versus
mm.
reality and actually making it work.
And I give you the example of hope and dreams. Before you get married to the guy, and you usually, you know what it is, guys? Like, I will say to you, like 50% of the time, there's always red flags, and you just ignore them.
Yeah,
And you think, nah, this is the qadr of Allah. This is the shaitan trying to put doubts in my mind and all this stuff. This is what you think in your mind, but you will always have the red flags in the beginning. But because you are living on hope and a fantasy of what a marriage should look like, you ignore the red signs, you ignore the toxic signs, you ignore all those red flags, and you tell yourself, I have a dream of what a marriage will look like. And this guy, he may not be all that great, but he fits it. I can mold
yeah.
him. I can fix him. You're not a rehab center,
We'll work
guys.
at it. Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, you're not a rehab center. Women, you're not a rehab center for broken men. None of you are here to raise a child. You're not raising a child. You need to have a whole man who knows what he wants, who is certain about what he wants, who is certain in his deen, in his health, in his mindset, in his money, in his certainty is what us as women need. We need security, we need safety, we need comfort. That's our primary needs as women. So when you are trying to fix a man and be his rehab center, you are in fact allowing yourself to fall down that toxic way and go down that route where you feel depressed, and then you tell yourself, I can't change him. When you knew from
Yeah,
the beginning that there were signs in the beginning that you shouldn't have gone ahead with it.
yeah. Walaikum salam, Diane, Fawzia, Salma, subhanallah. I want to touch upon the red flags thing. You know what happens? This is why there is wisdom, that
Mm,
we have so much wisdom, subhanallah. People who think that Islam is hard, Islam is oppressive, Islam harms the woman, and all these other misconceptions, they're not true, subhanallah. That's why the communication between a man and a woman before marriage is supposed to be done in the right and the legitimate way. Why? Because there is wisdom behind that. We as women, we're emotional, right? we
mm,
we we think based on our emotions, we get attached based on emotions, we give people the benefit of the doubt, and if he says one nice thing, that's it, you're hooked. You want to
mm,
get married now. He said
right.
the right things. He said it to you now. You've heard what you wanted to hear. He's done what he needed to, right? And you're
Yeah.
hooked. And you don't even know the guy. You don't know nothing about his family. You don't know nothing about his background. You don't really know about his deen, just because he's got a beard, or just because
Yeah.
he's saying inshallah or mashallah or where's the thobe or anything. And vice versa. It can be the same for the women as well, right?
Yeah.
And all the red flags are fully present, and most likely they are present, but because now you're hooked, right? You're
Mm,
in that state now. You're infatuated. He's told you what
mm,
you want to hear, or she's told you what you want to hear. Subhanallah. Now the danger has come. We stop using this, we stop using
mm,
our logic, and we
yeah.
become emotional. That decision is based on emotion because he's given you that compliment, or she has praised you, or told you what you wanted to hear, and now you're hooked. And that is why there is wisdom behind everything that our deen tells us. When there is
Right.
limited interaction, why we should have a mahram, why there should be a third party involved, why our meetings should be like that. Subhanallah, there is wisdom in every single thing that Allah has dictated to us.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, right? And I'm not saying I am perfect, I'm far from it. But
Mm,
subhanAllah, we cannot deny when we outrightedly don't choose to follow this path and follow our
mm,
desires because we really want that person to fill our cup. That's what's going to
right.
happen. You're going to miss out on all the red flags, and later
Mm,
you're going to spend your life later on because you missed out on the red flags because you were emotionally hooked trying to change him and he doesn't want to change.
Thank you. That is so important, guys. We're not talking about someone who's trying to change. We're not talking about someone who comes to you honestly about their flaws and say, "Listen, I've got these issues. Can you cope with it?" That's a different conversation.
And you should respect that person who says,
Yes.
"I've got this flaw and I've got that flaw.
Thank
Are
you.
you okay with
Can I
it?"
tell you something? Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Actually, my husband came to me like that. Mashallah, Allahumma barik. May Allah bless him. He actually came to me and told me all his flaws. He goes, "This is why I'm a bad person." This is exactly what he said, and that's the reason why I was like, "Wow, man, this he self-assesses himself all the time." If a person doesn't self-assess and goes, "You know, I pray, been to Egypt, I prayed, I learned Arabic, and all this stuff that makes them feel so grandiose," and you look at him and wow, he's my hero. That's what you're thinking in your mind. You're looking for someone to save you. Guys, no one can save you other than yourself. Only Allah can save you. You're looking for someone to fix you. You're looking for someone to make you feel whole again, when really you were whole all along. But you're just looking for that in someone else. You just got to look for it within yourself. And this is why it's so important to make sure you have other people around you that can, give you other opinions, that can talk to the person, that can ask questions that you're afraid to ask. Like, I asked my husband, like, what was your parents' relationship like? What was your childhood like? Do you have any unhealed trauma? What do you think about counseling? Would you ever go to therapy? What do you think about therapy? What do you think? All these questions us as women are afraid to ask because we're looking for a hero. And like Saika said, we're infatuated.
And we become infatuated, and that's when the damage is done, because we didn't do it properly from day one. And then later on is this regret that you want to change, and you end up becoming, maybe a doormat. It could be the husband or the wife, it could be either way around, subhanallah. But really, we could have tackled it from the beginning had we known, had we followed the right procedure, had we carefully really analyzed this decision and really checked it out, subhanallah. So there's a comment on Facebook that I wanna read. "I was in a 7-year marriage where my ex projected and I was the one taking action. Reached my limit and gained my power back, and I realized I'd given it my 110% and he wasn't going to change. It was one of the hardest decisions, and I wouldn't have made the decision if I didn't go through empowering myself and rebuilding myself. My advice is work on yourself to become whole, and everything else will be clear." Great topic, sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you, Salma. That is really courageous and brave, and I know how painful and difficult that journey is. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, enable us to always do what is right, to always do the right thing. We're not being, and in case anybody thinks, Fazrul says it would be nice to have an input of a male. Of course, you tell us what you think. If there's, we're not saying that this is just the men who need to change. It could be the other way around as well. Obviously, I deal predominantly with women and couples. So
but guys, with that comment, what I want to add to that, we're giving our perspective as women, because us as women, we want to change men. We are not saying that then there's not women out there that need to change, but we're talking to the women who are feeling like they need to commit suicide because their man can't change. That's the women we're talking to. We're not talking about men who are changing. We're not talking about men to give their opinion, because this is our opinion that we want to give, because we deal with women who are feeling this way. So it's like, when people say, like, what about, like, Black Lives Matter, what about all lives? It's just like that kind of comment, sometimes it can be dismissive. You have to understand that we deal with this on a day-to-day basis of women who feel like emotionally that they can't express themselves because they feel like, oh, there's no one to turn to. So we are giving these women some hope. And obviously men can watch this as well, and if they have a wife that's toxic as well, they have some hope too. That makes sense.
So and we welcome anybody's input, male and female, alhamdulillah. Tell us, give us some suggestions, or what would you like us to talk about or address. Walaikum salam, Amina. So alhamdulillah, this is the key thing to remember, that we can't change anybody. We're not responsible to change anyone. They have to do it for themselves.
Can I add something? Yes. Sorry, Spike, to cut you off. Okay. When it comes to red flags, we trauma bond. So this is what happens. We feel like it's butterflies, or this guy's the one I feel in my gut. Usually that's trauma, right? And usually that's your unhealed emotional wounds, your belief, your patterns, your negative thought patterns, your negative beliefs, your negative processed emotions.
It might even just be your love strategy or your attraction strategy as well.
Exactly.
That is being
it's a trauma.
It's
a thank you, and you think this is a sign from Allah that this is meant to be, but you have the niggling feeling that this is not right. and you know it's not right. It's called trauma bonding. Like, it's you bond with your trauma with someone, and until you heal that trauma, you will stay with them. And then one time, like I had like a client the other day. She was telling me that, since I had my session with you, like I feel like the person I wanted to be with, I don't want to be with him anymore, and it's showing up. I said, because you've healed a part of you that attracted both of you together. And now that you've healed that part, either he heals so that you can both be on the same level, or you have to let go of the relationship and move on. That's just the way it works. She obviously wasn't married to him. She's like working on getting married to him. So she's like, I feel like he's not the one for me. Exactly. That's what happens. When you heal that trauma within, you move on, and you create a new identity for yourself based upon peace, on love and security. There's loads of comments on Instagram. Let me go through them.
Yeah, share us your insights and what you're taking away from this, subhanallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you if you're going through any of this. We acknowledge and we appreciate it's very hard. It's very, very difficult when you're in there. We're talking about it openly, and I know how hard that is, and we're not.
I know, yeah, it triggers people. We understand the
Yeah,
triggers. We totally get it. Guys, when I used to listen to stuff like this 7 years ago, when I was in a relationship where I was being toxic myself, it triggered me. I would listen to these talk about what these people are on about. I'll be the first person to say that I would criticize. So I totally understand. When it comes to speaking the truth, you will get triggered. That's the whole point. We want to transform you. The whole reason why we're doing this, because we want to get you to see a different point of view. And the point of view that we've been seeing for such a long time is that abuse is okay. It's okay to be a rehab center. You're not okay if you don't have a man. This is the ideology we've been taught for such a long time, and we want to give you a new set of ideas. So if you're feeling triggered, we welcome it. We appreciate you. We love you. We want to show you compassion. There's nothing wrong with it. Just know that when you're feeling triggered, it's because something within you needs to heal.
yeah.
Um, Okay, all I'm seeing is laughing faces from before, so let me just go after that. Okay, so Sumi said, speaking from experience, that's a fail right there. It drains your energy. I believe if someone values your relationship, they will they will um they will do what it takes to do their best. You can never change someone. Exactly. Kumra said, I think it's all of our duty to continuously work on bettering ourselves. Yes, exactly. You have to point the finger at yourself. Karmalisha said, we can't change anyone, can only change ourselves. Okay, we got a
100%, yeah.
question. Kumar said, are our husbands prioritizing this duty? If they don't realize the importance of bettering themselves, they will never have self-realization, and we can change them. We can't change them. True. Exactly. It's both for both of us, wife and husband. You have to always commit to improving yourself. That's how marriages flourish. When you just think about it, guys, when you have a flower, you have to keep watering it. Then you have to prune the
Yeah.
leaves. You have to keep developing that flower. The flower will just die if you just don't tend to it. It's the same with your marriage. You have to keep finding ways to improve your marriage and improve the communication.
Mm.
John said, I understand what you guys are saying, but maybe it's not best to say someone isn't whole. We're all whole, always are, just some more damaged than others, because if we aren't whole, when will we ever be? Yeah, that's true. We are whole. We're not broken. We just give our power away. That's a better way
Yeah,
to look
so
at
when
it.
you give your power away, that means you're giving a part of yourself away and potentially not being whole as you can
Yes,
be. Yeah, we're all
exactly.
born whole, subhanAllah, but then the experiences that we face and what happens in our lives, we end up making them compromises, which can be quite
Yes,
damaging later on.
exactly. Sumi said, I wanted it to work so badly for 7 years until I was losing myself in the process, decided to end my marriage, which was so painful but worthy for my mental health. Yes, mashallah, well done. May Allah increase you in steadfastness and patience. And
Make
may
it
Allah,
easy for you and find you somebody that is worthy and
I
deserving
mean,
of you, who's going to change and who's going to put in the same level of commitment into the marriage as you did as well.
I mean, well, I said there are so many narcissist codependent relationships, and the problem is many people still think that's the normal marital relationship. Exactly, and this is what we're trying to tackle. That is not normal. It's not normal for you to be in a marriage where you can't make it work. It's not normal for you to always be It's not normal for you to fight with someone to get better. That is not normal, right, Saika? When
Yeah,
you're trying to
completely.
when you're trying to like
It's
convince
unhealthy,
someone,
completely
yeah, it's
unhealthy.
unhealthy, very unhealthy. Um, Let me see any more question. There was a question just before.
If there's
Uh,
any more questions on Facebook or comments, please let us know.
yeah,
Selma said we need more brothers and sisters going through healing past traumas. Sure, we do,
yeah,
subhanallah. And that's when we acknowledge it, and we have to be open and acknowledge it. There's no failure. Remember, we said this yesterday. There's no failure. There's only feedback, subhanallah. If you're really committed to improving yourself, then you can only go up, inshallah.
Exactly. Um, Maybe there's a lack of good men out there. I don't believe that at all. There's a plenty of good men out there. We're just looking in the
Inshallah,
wrong
there's
places.
plenty. Yeah, yeah. Inshallah, there's plenty of good
There's
women
plenty.
and good men as well.
Yeah,
Likewise, inshallah.
there's
There's
plenty. I used
7
to,
point something billion people in this planet,
yeah,
in this world.
right.
There's
I
got
used
to
to
be
have that
something out
ideology. Guys, you know
there.
what? When I had that ideology, I kept attracting guys who are emotionally unavailable because I kept saying to myself, there's no good men out there. So you attract what you think. So if you think
Yeah,
to yourself, there's good women out there, there's amazing women out there, there's women who are righteous, there's women who want to get married. You tell yourself
yeah.
that every single day, it will come into your field, into your energy field. Trust
I
me.
appreciate what she's saying that they are rare. Yes, real is rare. I think I can acknowledge that bit. Real is rare, but it doesn't mean that there's no one out there.
Yeah, there's
Like,
7
does that
billion
make
people,
sense? Yeah,
guys. There's
alhamdulillah.
7 billion people. Do you know there's 7 billion? And let me just repeat this. There's 7 billion people out there,
On
just to
this
remind
planet.
you.
On this
On this
planet.
planet. Maybe more. We don't know. Yeah. You could go
Yeah,
to the
subhanallah.
Amazon rainforest. Like, you don't know. There's people
Yeah,
out there.
people are giving birth every day,
Yeah,
so there's probably another
exactly.
million that have come into the planet since that time.
Okay, so Ramesa asks, what if someone thinks there's nothing wrong with them and all the work and change needs to be done by you?
Then
So,
they haven't come to the basic acknowledgement that there's a problem. You can't change them in a nutshell. If
yeah.
you have to change, obviously nobody's perfect. If there's flaws within you, we acknowledge them flaws and we work on them, but they have to do their bit as well.
Mm. Someone asked how Somali Nomad said, am I allowed to listen and learn because I'm a man? Yes, you can. Of course, men are allowed
Yeah,
here.
of course.
This is not a female only gathering or live. How someone asked, could you mention some of the red flags to watch out for? I
So
got
hiding
plenty.
yeah, there's loads,
There's
subhanallah.
loads.
Hiding information,
Uh-huh.
that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Not telling you the truth, being
Yeah.
secretive.
Yes.
Um, just there could be so many. What else is there, Rosie? I've
For
got a long
me,
list, probably to
so
be honest.
a red flag for me is when you ask them, would you go for therapy? They go, no. I don't like no one knowing my business. Narcissist or abusive person, that's the straight away thing that I think.
Sign,
When someone
yeah,
yeah, when someone doesn't want to improve themselves and they say to you no to improvement, no. Someone who says to you that I want a wife who just cooks and cleans and stays at home, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you as a person is not aligned with that thingy, that's a red flag. Another thing is when they say to you they haven't healed from their past. So maybe they had a messy childhood, maybe there were issues and they haven't looked into it.
they
And you
might
ask
even ask.
them,
Yeah, they might. Sorry, Rosie, I just
yeah,
remembered something funny.
yeah, go on.
Somebody told me this. There was somebody who was going through a proposal, and that guy was abroad, right? He was abroad. He wasn't in the UK. She was in the
Mm-hmm.
UK,
Mm.
and a red flag is, I remember this, subhanallah. He asked her for like to lend
Why
her
have you gone?
a
Okay.
few
Yeah.
$1,000 or something like that. Lend me a few $1,000
What?
without even meeting. So I think that's definitely a
What?
red flag.
Another
So
red
that's,
flag.
yeah,
Another
that's
red
a
flag.
clear red flag.
That's actually quite funny. SubhanAllah. Send me some money. Okay then, mate.
Yes, and if somebody I don't think you should be marrying that person anytime soon.
Yeah,
Subhanallah.
and someone who doesn't show their character like that, this is a good thing that you should do, yeah. You should tell your mahram if you have a mahram. This is what only works if you have a mahram. Tell your mahram to take the guy out to a restaurant, right? I learned this from someone that actually has a very
Yes,
successful marriage.
yes.
Yeah, take him to the restaurant, yeah,
I
and then
learned this
start
too, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then start complaining about the food and see how he reacts. You will find out who that person is on that day by the way that they react when you start complaining. Just tell your brother or your husband or your father or someone, your mahram, to complain about the food. Tell the waiter to come. Start acting up and see how the person deals under stress. That's how you will find out
Yeah,
how someone
subhanallah.
acts under
Didn't
stress.
the Prophet ﷺ say there's
So,
like
so
3 criteria to get to know somebody if you travel with them,
traveling, yeah,
you
and
do business with them, and one
something
more, I
else.
can't remember,
I forgot the other one.
something else, wasn't it?
That's
Subhanallah. That's how
yeah,
you really get to know somebody, when you spend that large amount of time with
time.
them and how they behave in these situations as well.
Yes, stress them out. If
Yeah,
see how they deal with stress. Just ignore them. Tell them you don't want to get married to them. Cause stress, not in a bad way, with the intention to find out how are they dealing with it. How do they act? This is how you will know what their real character is. And another thing, please don't say to your question, do you pray? Are you on the deen? What minhaj, whatever you follow, which sheikh do you follow?
yeah,
That doesn't matter. What matters is how he's going to deal with you as a wife. And you will only find that out when you find out his character, just by those three conditions of finding out someone really is: traveling with them, doing business with them. Forgot the other one.
I can't remember.
Travel.
It's just slipped my
If
mind.
anyone knows,
Stay
please
with
let you
them or
know.
something. Is it just
That's
staying
the
with them?
same. That's business
That's
and
no, that's the
traveling.
same as traveling, isn't it? Traveling
Yeah,
with
when
them.
when you travel with someone.
I can't
I
remember.
don't. Yeah,
But
but
there is
guys,
a
yeah.
third part to it. You can check it out.
Yeah, so make sure that your mahram, or even the sheikh from the imam from the masjid, takes them out for dinner, and then they do the stress, they heighten their stress in a nice way, so that you know what they're like as a human. Because we don't do this kind of stuff. We just
We
jump in. I
don't.
just want to get
We just
married.
we hear the right words and he says the right things and okay, let's
He
get
goes, "You're
married
my
in
Khadija.
2 months'
Let's be
time.
Khadija. Yeah, let's get
Yeah.
married tomorrow." And you don't even know where the person's from. You don't even know their background. You don't know their family. You don't know their parents. And also another thing, speak to their parents. Speak to their parents, and sit with them and chill with them and find out what the dynamic of the family is. Soak it in. Figure out the energy.
Give
yeah,
yourself some time to soak it in. Don't just
yeah,
rush into it overnight. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
What if you want to change and you do the work, you even go to therapy alone because they don't want to? Then, after years, they want to do therapy and be better, but you're over it by then and don't care. That's a very good question, saved by my thoughts. What do you think?
So so say that again. Say that again slowly so I can
Sorry.
digest
What,
it.
what if, so sorry. What if you want to change and you do the work, you even go to
Okay.
therapy alone because they
Alone.
don't want to, and then after years, they want to go and improve themselves and go to therapy, but you're over it?
Well, if you're still in the marriage and that person is being serious, if that was me, if you're telling me that was me, and my husband was like, okay, I'm doing therapy and I'm changing, or I've made XYZ changes, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt.
Just remember,
That's
guys.
just me. That's
Yeah.
my values in it. I wouldn't, if he's really committed or somebody has taken the effort, even though it's been years to do it. I know how I am, the character I am. I'm quite soft like that. I'm quite forgiving. It doesn't mean I don't have boundaries, but I think I would give that person the benefit of the doubt. Allah.
Also, she said, okay, I've been to therapy for 2 years, and he refused to go, and I feel so much better now. And now he wants to do therapy. I'm tired, but need to stay for our small kids. Huh? If you went to therapy and feel good, that means your energy somehow influenced him. You were the
Yes.
leader. You should be owning that, girl. Like, you should be saying to yourself, wow, mashallah, I went to therapy and it actually affected him in a way. Guys, you know why? I'll tell you, I had a client, and this is a true story. I had a client, and she wanted to divorce her husband. And she said, I'm done with him. We've been together for 20 years. I can't stand him. I've been to therapy. I've been doing the work on myself, and he doesn't want to do the same thing. After she had a session with me, she started changing out towards marriage. He started changing towards her. Sometimes, I'm not saying this is always the case. We're not talking about abuse when the man is abusive towards you. We're talking in the sense that, okay, if he has, the only thing that's annoying you about the situation is that he's not improving himself. Maybe he's still giving you your rights, and he's still trying to be a good husband, but there's no communication, no intimacy, there's no connection, there's no spark, none of that. And you feel exhausted by it all, because as women, we want to feel appreciated, we want to feel safe, we want to feel comfort, we want to feel loved. So when that doesn't happen, we get exhausted. So what I would say to you is, um go with that. Allow the man to go to therapy and just see how it goes. You don't have to hold no resentment against him. I have no idea why saying
But
17
definitely
minutes.
give him the benefit of the doubt, and definitely do what you can to save your marriages. Don't become a doormat,
Wait, hold
and
on,
don't
Saika.
from
Instagram.
abuse.
Instagram is saying remaining 7 seconds. I think we're leaving. Oh, it's ended. Anyways, let's carry on with
Just
Facebook.
carry on if you can still hear me
Sorry,
on
let's carry on with
Facebook
Facebook.
properly.
So that was all the comments on Instagram. That was most of
Can
them.
you hear me, Rosie?
Yeah, I can hear you. That was most of the comments from Instagram.
SubhanAllah, I think I've lost it. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah, guys, mashallah, it was a
Yeah,
very
SubhanAllah.
informative
I think
talk.
you can't really change anyone. That is the key lesson. You can't change anybody. You have to accept them for who they are and really know that if they're in it in the long run or not. If they're
Yeah,
in
and
it
just
for the
remember,
long run, they really love you, they're committed to you, they dedicated to you, subhanAllah, they'll do the work and they'll change. And if your husband or wife is now coming on board with it and saying, you know what, I acknowledge I've got this problem and I'm putting in the work and I want to change, then give them the benefit of the doubt. We won't. You know, I wouldn't just say carelessly that, okay, go and divorce this person, you know, because
Yeah,
ultimately you love for your brother or your sister what you love for yourself. I wouldn't just
exactly.
get up and,
I don't know what it
you
is
know,
after that client
divorce
story.
my husband because
Um,
of that reason. I'd want
yeah,
to give that person the maximum benefit of the doubt.
exactly. With that client
Can you
story,
hear me?
can you hear me, hun?
I don't think she can hear me.
Put
But
put
yeah,
your
subhanAllah.
put your thing here on.
No, it's done. It's done on Instagram.
No, I mean put your laptop. I don't think she can hear me.
So
She
yeah, I think we've had a bit of a technical glitch. She can't hear me. If there is no other questions or no other comments, then we will have to call it a day, inshallah. Actually, I'm going to read one more comment on Facebook where Manida says, "You can't get married in the hope of changing a man. If you accepted him with his faults in the beginning, then don't expect a different person in the future. A man will change when he wants or when he truly loves you, but through du'as, miracles do happen." Yeah, of course, we stay hopeful. We ask Allah always. We put our trust in Allah, and we have that journey of having our trust in Him. But we also do the work. We tie our camel first, and we put our trust in Allah. And yeah, as long as the man is being truthful to you about his faults, you know, and you know them clearly, then yes, you've entered that position, you've entered that marriage knowing what's going to happen, subhanallah. So you have to acknowledge that and own that, subhanallah. So yes, thank you so much, everybody. Jazakallah khair for tuning in. We hope you found this beneficial. If you know anybody who's going through this and who can really, benefit from listening to this, please do share it with them. We welcome any feedback that you want, any topics you really want us to discuss. We're on here for another 14 more lives. We promise to do a 30-day live thing, alhamdulillah, just to serve you guys. So stay tuned on our page. And thank you so much. And inshallah, taqabbalallah on your fasting. We will see you tomorrow, probably in the evening, same time. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.